The main title of the book is The Subsistence Perspective, and the authors talk about expanding what's the core economy or the subsistence economy, the economy that sits underneath capitalism, where we do things for each other, we grow our own food. They're talking about expanding that economy as a really important basis. That's the economy that's been with humanity since the beginning of time. And they discuss the importance of that for this time. And they also want to get rid of capitalism. So there's a good analysis of, eco-feminist analysis of capitalism in the book also.
I think our farming and food production is really upset by the agribusiness taking over and actually interfering with individual farmers and how they work, even punishing them and sending goons out to take away their seed supply if they don't buy the genetically modified seeds. I mean, it's really getting to be so big that individual farmers and individuals like what you're talking about can hardly stand up.
And today's presentation will address that somewhat as well. And Aubrey, I wanted you to see.
Let's let the two guys who just came in introduce themselves to Joyce, since she's in there. Aubrey, can you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, Aubrey Shepherd.
I'm the Chief Arbor Boy.
Could you put your name and address and email us? And so I showed that the climate change forum has its own web page, and then Aubrey, under your encouragement, do you see how we've listed? Do you see how, Aubrey, we've listed you as well? See Aubrey Shepherd's videos of climate change forum on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're an excellent resource that we'll continue to have up there. So what I was saying was, if any of you know someone else who might want to be on that list that we send out, Shelley sent it out probably 3 or 4 times during the month, because we meet first Sundays of every month. And if Shelley will put you on that list now, so you see what books or articles or films that we'll be talking about. And if you have, let me show one more thing yet again. Here's on the Climate Change Forum site itself. See, it says Climate Change Forum recommended reading. This is just a short list for the moment. Look at all of these different books. And I brought this.
These are books we might possibly discuss.
Exactly.
Okay.
And today we're going to, after the presentation, I'm hoping everybody can stay, not just be a steering committee meeting, but everybody stay for a few extra minutes to see what are we doing for this forum. You know, are we going to change the way it works? Are we going to keep it more or less like it is? Are we going to have everybody on the list who's interested tell us books they'd like to read? You know, give us some more feedback as to what it is we really ought to be doing, because we're kind of singing to the choir. It's just that all of us go out and do other things. You know, some of us are activists, some of us are educators, etc. So there's so many different ways we can affect politics and the economics and so forth. So if all of you would stay, or whoever wants to stay after the presentation, so we can talk about more books that we want to list, because we're good up through December. But then starting in January, we need to see what do we want to do in January and how do we want to continue doing this. So as I was saying, we're trying to advertise a lot more Northwest Arkansas, because I'll write Becca Martin Brown again. Shelley and I'll keep sending out to the list. Free weekly, though I hear now it's just an entertainment. And maybe, Dick, when you suggest the farmers market with flyers, I'm kind of interested in that, because I would like to get involved with the farmers market.
All I need is someone who will make a flyer, and I'll go do it.
Yeah, well, I'll just get a template, a pattern or something, so that maybe we can do that. And someone suggested, how can we do that so it doesn't offend the right of center, and that we can attract them here, because they're the ones we really wish would come and listen. Yeah. Anybody else with an announcement or something you'd like to say?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, do you want announcements now or afterward?
Now, let's go ahead and do announcements now. What?
Go ahead. So I haven't really discussed this group yet, and I don't have enough flyers. I thought it was Labor Day weekend, nobody'd come. But Omni Center is preparing to do a campaign to put solar panels on the roof. And this group in particular is, I think, a group of people I know will value this as a project. And this brochure, there's only 6 brochures here, so as long as there's a brochure, you can have a brochure. If you don't get a brochure and you want one.
It is also online, right? Is it not?
Oh, it's not yet. No, yeah, okay. So, well, okay, so can you go back to the webpage there? The announcement about it is on the page on the top.
Right here at the very top.
Yeah.
There it is.
So it has a little bit of right there. It doesn't have quite as much information. But, so we have...
So that would make it a nice flyer, when that picture.
I have one, yes. We have a flyer. We do have a flyer for this.
I'll hand them out if you want to send them,
Okay.
or can I just copy them, duplicate them on my computer?
Possibly.
That's one backlog.
And it would be that?
No, it'd be more like that.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna.
Okay, let me finish talking about it.
I'm not gonna take one.
Okay, so now what we really have decided that we have to do is we have to start getting solar in Northwest Arkansas, because Terry Tremwell, who is a frequent attender of this group, but he has emphasized to us that now's the time to do it. He drives across the country for different events, and it's real clear that around the country there are places that every other house has solar panels on their roof or their yard. And that is just not true in Northwest Arkansas, where we have been supporting the concepts of sustainability for how many years now. So this project really is an educational effort to get other people in Northwest Arkansas to see the value of solar. So we're going to be collecting money, and we can actually do it at a pretty reasonable price. For one thing, Terry Tremble is giving us a really good deal on the 19 panels that we need to buy. So we're going to be able to buy those panels for an installed cost of less than $1,000. Then Richard Tipp has installed a couple of solar systems, and he's going to do the installation, so we have no labor costs involved.
Plus Richter also said that he would volunteer.
Yes, and he's going to,
Who is that?
He's a Richter. He has his own company. He's Flint Richter.
Richard.
Flint, R-I-C-H-T-E-R.
Yes.
Is the second one listed on?
Yes, yes. So there are on here a few of the friends that are working with us to do this, and Terry's listed on there, and Flint Richter is listed on there, and Orla Stitt's company is listed on there. But there's others that we've encountered over the years that have really, they're poised to help do this. But now, the real deadline is that our state legislature set up a law that will put a fee in place on all renewable energy sources. You know, it's really intended to kind of make those less appealing to people. And so when that goes into effect, then all solar installations are going to be charged this fee. And I can't remember, they have not decided.
Fee, or is it a monthly
No, it'll
fee?
be a monthly fee. Monthly fee. And so they, but if we can get our system, if we can get as many systems in place before the original time that they're going to be discussing the final rule decisions is the end of November. So if we have our system in place by the end of November, we can get the grandfathered in for 10 years. And in 10 years, we're going to transform the planet, and we won't have to start that. So, but we need to get these panels in place, and we need to be talking about it in public as much as possible. So there are lots of people doing it. So this really nice Quaker just handed me $500 in meeting this morning. I was so happy about that. So I'm perfectly willing to accept donations anytime anybody is ready to make them.
Is that it?
Yeah, does anybody, unless somebody has questions, so you talk to me later about it.
Malcolm, did you have that?
Okay, I have a number of things. First of all, I came in and I passed out, I think 4 copies of this, but I'll email Dick, and I think maybe I've already emailed you a PDF.
What's the title of it?
It's Plain Facts About Anthropogenic Global Climate Change and Warming, a review. And it was published, it's peer reviewed, it was published in the Journal of the Arkansas Academy of Sciences, volume 70, 2016. And it's, I don't want to say it's exhaustive, but it runs, I think, 13 pages. And it's got, of those, 6 pages of references, 6 or 7 pages of references. Which are cited in the, but it is peer reviewed, so it's part of the literature.
Malcolm, if you just pass it around, then I can get the title exactly.
You sure?
Okay,
I got it. Here it is.
Started here and pass it around, and
I'd like to get my copy of that.
and it's her copy. She's got notes on it. In November, we'll be talking about this, the Republican War on Science, by Chris Mooney, very interesting.
I'm sorry.
I thought you passed it around. Her again.
Anybody else? There we go.
Anyway, I want to give a little plug for an organization called POLY, which stands for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. I don't think I've ever seen any of you at an OLLI presentation. Are any of you members?
But I bet Art is.
Well, that's what?
I'll bet Art is. He's presented there.
Yeah, Art is. Yeah. Anyway, I've given presentations on climate change and paleoclimate and a lot of other things. Those are just 2 things that I'm supposed to know something about. I've given presentations on things that I'm not supposed to know anything about. But it's amazing what you can do with research. Let me say something about Becca Mark Brown. She had an issue of What's Up that was devoted to lifelong learning, and she never mentioned the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which is, a primary source here in Northwest Arkansas. And and when I contacted her, she was completely dismissive. Oh, they don't do anything. Well, we've got 500 members, at least 500 members, and a lot of non-members come and take courses, and their courses are everything from A to Z, asteroids to.
So we're forewarned now.
And it's just, I mean, do not rely on her. I mean, you keep pressuring her, and maybe if you put enough pins into the cushion, maybe she'll respond. But
did you have another announcement?
She is stupid.
No.
It's never going to get to ad comments. Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Anybody else with an announcement?
I do.
Dick, please.
I am perhaps the same with you. I'm so overwhelmed by messages, and I don't even get Facebook.
Right.
That I'm trying to reduce my focus to warming and wars, and especially nuclear war.
Yeah.
So I go around with books in my hands and show them off and tell them about it. This is a book we might discuss here.
Oh, yeah.
I've loaned it to 2 people, and they've told me it's a real change in their attitudes. It's really strong praise for this book. So that's an evidence of 3 persons, but something like that. I'll pass it around. If anyone, this is my extra copy.
It's on the list.
Good. I know it was. Yeah. Yeah. I have an extra copy. I'll pass it around. If anyone wants it, take it at that moment. If it comes all the way back to me, I'll take it with me and try another spot. Here it is. It's called Green Capitalism, the God That Failed. And that's it. They got their thesis in the title. And then the other one is maybe, since I haven't read all the books, maybe the best book on the nuclear weapons, written by a great Quaker, Joseph Gerson. He's as good as you could get. He just knows everything. Has been reading and writing about the nuclear weapons for his lifetime, and now has his own organization about it. But let me pass this around too, if you don't think it'll interrupt our meeting, I can show it. And again, if you would like to look at it, read the opening chapter of this. That's enough. And then if you like it, you keep it. And the same with this. Just read the first chapter. I'll bet you a dime that you will read the whole thing. Thank you all.
Actually, I did have one more announcement. I have a paper here that was published in Politics and Policy by a Norwegian named Bachström. It's called More Than Markets, a comparative study of 9 conservative parties on climate change. He studied the position on climate change of the conservative parties in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, Sweden and Norway, and Australia and New Zealand, which is a pretty good sampling of the liberal democracies in the world. And of the 9 conservative parties in those countries, 8 of them say that climate change is a serious problem and needs to be addressed with urgency. And guess what the 9th is? It's the American Republican Party. And so I'll email you a PDF from this, but this is, and I cite this in, as a reason for our inaction in that paper. And I will say that the peer review, there was one peer reviewer who was just, how can you say that? And I said, no, hey, he said, you shouldn't say that sort of thing. And I said, since when has the scientific literature not embraced truth? And he had no...
And you got it there. If you pass it around, I'll get the title correct.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Is that all?
If you want to.
I'll send you, when you email me,
Folks, we better
I'll send you a PDF of this.
Okay.
We better get going on the
Thank you.
presentation today. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. This is what we need to do to be more interactive and not just be a static program and presentation. So I really appreciate this and hope that we can do this every month that we meet. In fact, I asked Art, and I think I may have asked Malcolm, as our 2 scientists that are almost always present here. I asked Art, and Art said he'd be happy to do the following. I don't remember what Malcolm and I said to each other. To have a live, what I called a live wire mention of 3 or 4 items that have just happened, to either put us up to date on climate change or put us up to date on something positive relative to climate change. At the moment, I remember 2 things that Art said. There were more. The positive one is that there are 52 Republicans and Democrats, half and half, on the climate caucus in Congress who are actively promoting and working toward the good. The other item that I remember at the moment is the Larson ice sheet tabbed. So that was the bad one. He had 2 more, I don't remember. Malcolm, you have 1 or 2 quick comments before we get to the program?
Well, there was a wildfire in Greenland.
Yeah, right.
Plus, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that both the Greenland ice sheet and the West Antarctic ice sheets are losing mass. In other words, and that's why, primary reason why sea level is rising. We're losing our mountain glaciers, but that's compared to the ice sheets losing mass, that's relatively minor. It's not minor if you depend on them for water, but that's another issue. Let's see,
Will you give me your name and email address and I'll put you on my
well,
list?
the fact that the West Antarctic, it's been known for a long time that the West Antarctic ice sheet
What kind
is
is your
losing
name and
mass.
email?
The fact that the shelves, the ice shelves, sea ice is now breaking up around all the ice caps is serious, because while it does, the sea ice does not contribute to sea level rise. It's already in the water, but the ice shelves hold back the glaciers, the inland glaciers, and and when the ice shelves disappear, those inland glaciers really begin to discharge ice. And let us say that the pace is no longer glacial.
Thanks, Malcolm.
And I've noticed that the
Let's
inland-
move on to the presentation, and then we'll have some really light discussion as we go through. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the presentation complete in our time frame. And you don't know yet. You'll get to know it if you keep coming. We hope you do. The presentation was based on 3 articles that were, expressed right here. The Uninhabitable Planet by David Wallace Wells, and the response to it by Margaret Klein Salomon that says the planet is warming, it's okay to be afraid. And then sequentially in time, the 3rd article was by Richard Heinberg. And Richard Heinberg is an energy expert, and he says, are we doomed? Let's have a conversation. And now I added 2 or 3 other things to this presentation that were not listed here. One is, when you read Margaret Klein Salomon and says the planet is warming, it's okay to be afraid, she speaks to about affect phobia and affect tolerance. And she says there are many people who are afraid of strong emotions. And so her response to the Uninhabitable Planet was very different from Michael Mann's. Michael Mann said, doomist does not work, it scares people. Whereas Margaret Klein Salomon says, look, nothing else has worked, we've got to understand what's actually happening. Fear is okay as long as you have solutions. So the 2 items that I've added that were not mentioned, one is at the end of Naomi Klein's
Go slowly.
book, No is not good enough, and at the end of the book she has the LEAP manifest. It's a very short 15-item suggestion on what we can do, solutions along the line of what Margaret Klein Salomon said. By the way, she's a clinical psychologist, and she's the one who, with many others, has started climate mobilization. This is very, very important because it gets together the thoughts in all sectors of what we need to be doing. So I'll end with those 2 items, the LEAP manifest and the victory plan from Margaret Klein Salomon. But I strongly encourage everyone here to go to Google, or whatever you ever do that, to Google climate mobilization and find the victory plan. I'm giving just the executive summary, and it by itself is 6 or 7 pages long. The actual document is 60 pages long, and I've not read it. I've only read the executive summary, which I want us to go over. So how many of you actually read the articles? This is not to go, oh, you're bad. This is to just see, if the communication got out there, great, almost everybody read them. That's wonderful. These are more dire, catastrophic articles rather than some of the ones that we've seen before that may not express the actual moment in time where climate catastrophe is. So let me get this other up. I don't much like PowerPoint, so I have what I'm going to call an outline, and there are the articles. And you can see up at the top that I've added Michael Mann's blog post in parentheses, and then at the end of that, in parentheses, the LEAP manifest and the victory plan from climate mobilization. If you didn't read it, this is a really good, awful picture of the uninhabitable Earth. I don't know where David Wallace Wells got his pictures, but can you see it's...
They're dramatic.
Yeah, you can see he's encased in, who knows what it is, but as a response to climate change, a lot of people are going to die. So here we go. And
That's already true?
It's already true, the climate refugees, and I'll list some things here. A lot of this we already know, we're kind of saying to the choir, but I'm going to go over it kind of quickly just to kind of get us up to speed to see what was in these articles. Okay, as David Wallace Wells says, it is, I promise, worse than you think. No matter how well informed you are surely not alarmed enough. Indeed, absent a significant adjustment to how billions of humans conduct their lives, parts of the earth will likely become close to uninhabitable, and other parts horrifically inhospitable as soon as the end of this century. Now, Michael Mann has some comments about things such as this. He says, for example, to that statement, there's not enough scientific proof in